My first name is John, and the last name is Farritor, Farritor.
And when were you born?
I was born in Anselmo, Nebraska, the Sand Hills.
Wow.
I was a cowboy.
Wow.
I left there in July of 1941, never returned.
I see. When were you born?
I was born in 1919, 9 July.
1919, July.
Yeah, I'm 97 right now.
So July 19th, 1919.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I'm pushing up there to get 100 there. I'm going to go to 6, but I promised a little girl I'd go to graduation. We were graduating. She don't graduate till I'll be 106 then.
Is that your granddaughter or?
No, just a friend.
Okay, wow.
Just a friend.
I see. Wow. Well, so when did you get to, so you live in Vista right now?
Yeah, I've lived in a retirement home,
I see.
retirement center there,
Yeah.
Rancho Vista.
Okay.
There's a lot of old people like me around there.
Yeah.
I'm the only one Marine that got to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Since when were you a part of Chosin Few?
A what?
Since when were you a part of the Chosin Few group?
When was I a part of it? All the time I was going.
I see.
From the start to the finish.
Wow.
And in World War I, World War II, I was from the start to the finish also.
I see.
I was on Iwo Jima too.
Yeah, I see your hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Many are called, but few are chosen.
Yeah. So before you went to Korea, did you know anything about Korea?
Not much. I knew it was a land of the morning sun, they called it or something, but I didn't know too much about it. There's one thing about it I didn't understand about Korea. After the war, why didn't they change? Did they leave the Japan on the sea over there? That should be Korea.
Yeah.
They can't do that international thing.
Yeah.
Nobody complained, so I guess they got away with it. But no, I felt sorry for the Koreans. They went through hell.
Yeah.
I like the Korean people. I've been back there quite a few times.
Oh, really?
I was invited back, 5 of us, 5 survivors from the Chosin were invited back for a week of lots of sake and all kinds of stuff.
Ah.
But it was great. It was great.
What was the Korea that you remember when it was during the war? What was your first impression of the country?
When I first came there, I hit Pusan, We got there just in time to keep the army from getting pushed in the ocean,
Yeah.
We had a Pusan perimeter, that's all they had. So we landed there and we pushed it back and made it safe for the army there. Then we went out to sea and joined the 1st Marine Division, went up to hit Incheon. We landed at Incheon. There's a 23-foot tide up there. Man, I'll tell you, the last boat in our convoy of the ships it set down in the mud before it get to the beach.
Wow.
The tide was going out. And so they had to sit there till the next tide came in. But I love Korea, and I've met a lot of Korean people. I had a lot of experience with the people.
Do you remember them? What did they look like? Did you guys talk together? Did they speak English?
Any hot?
In Korea, the Koreans. Were you able to talk to them?
Yeah.
How did you interact with them?
I got along pretty good with them. I had a lot of good experience with them. I even hired a little boy. It was Christmas Eve in 1950. I was in my tent there, and we were getting ready to go back, start fighting back again, the other way. And so I was sitting in there in a tent, and the corporal came in and said, "Hey, you take the phone. I'm going to take a walk." So I took my flashlight and went outside, and it was dark, and it was a little snow on the ground, not much, but it was freezing, but it wasn't bad. Wasn't nothing like the 0 up in Chosin. But anyway, I heard something, so I turned around, turned the flashlight down the side of the tent, and there was this little boy down there. Well, he was 7 years old, but anyway, he had the shoes, you know, I call them shower shoes, but anyway, that's all he had on, and he had a short sleeve shirt, and he was freezing, he was cold, and he was just shaking, and he was up against that tent where our stove was. See, he was getting a little warmth off that tent there, and so I didn't want to scare him, and I didn't know Korean, but I knew that they were taught a lot of Japanese when they were slaves there, so I talked to him in Japanese, you know, because I was pretty good in Japanese, and I knew they hated to use it, but I finally got him, so I didn't want him to run off, so I got him out, and I got him inside, and got him in there, and I had the corporal. I said, get a can of meat and beans and beat it up good, and heat it, but don't get it too hot, and when it gets down, just the right temperature for your teeth, feed him some, but just give him little bits at a time, over a period of time. Don't let him eat it. He'll get sick. He's not used to a lot of heavy food. And so he got along done pretty good. And that was Christmas Eve. So when some wise guy, we stacked some rations up there, and they put a tree up there. That was my Christmas tree. And here was Joe down under the tree there. And I called him Joe.
Oh, you named him Joe?
I named him Joe, yeah.
You
And
wrote here.
The first thing I said, your name's Joe? So I said, say it. So I had him say it. He got it pretty good. And he said, I like it. Okay. Anyway, then so we got, and I kept him. And so we got ready to pull out and move. We was there about 30 days. And he was there, and I had him here, hidden away all, but they knew he was there. So they finally come down, and they said, Joe can't go with you when you move. Joe has to stay here. And I said, God, I can't do that. I told warrant officers, I can't kick him out. They're talking about people that got families there. He doesn't have any family there. He was a North Korean. He's got no family. And so I said, well, we can't take him with him anyway. So we loaded up the night before, and then at 6 o'clock we were going to take off. Well, it was still dark at 6, you know. So we was lined up there, and it snowed a little bit, because I know I slept under a truck, and I got stole on me. So anyway, at 6 o'clock we took off, you know, and they had trucks all covered over tarp, you know, and I had 5 trucks. And one space I got back a ways to go around the convoy, see how I was doing. And I noticed the lead truck where the snow broke up there. And I said, what the hell's going on up there? And I said, that damn Joe was underneath that tarp. And he'd been in underneath that tarp all night. He was freezing to death. So I crawled up there and I got a Joe. Yeah. It's okay, I get off. Yeah, get off. So I got him off, and I took him down. The warrant officer was sitting in the cab, you know. He had a heater, so I put Joe in the middle there, and I said, you take care of him and let him get some heat. You don't soak it all up. Let him have it. And he said, you're going to get me locked up. No, they'll never know the difference. Just throw a blanket over him when anybody comes around. I said, okay. So we moved up to Pohang, and then they put out an order that anybody that had indigenous people working for them, they have to be from the next town. They can't move them to another town because they don't know anybody over there, so they have to stay there. Well, Joe didn't have any. He didn't have anybody anyway. So I told Joe, I got the map out there, and I said, we're going to go here, and then we're going to move up here. So these are the towns. You got to memorize these towns. And when they come and ask you where you're from, you tell them that town, the nearest town to you and there, not any other town. Because then you can stay there if it's a near town. So I got him pretty well trained on that. So he stayed with us for, he stayed with us till April, from Christmas Eve to April. And I used to give him school about 5 or 6 hours a day, teaching him basic English. I wanted to get him a good job with the Army. They got a lot of money and they need a lot of help, so I wanted to get him a good job. And I taught him all the equipment, that we used to, shovels and spades and axes and things that he could get in a storeroom and issue stuff. And that's what I was training him for. And so I got him in there, and
Wow.
and then when my time came up, I'd already been down there. The Army had a big supply depot down there, and they had an old master sergeant down there that I knew. And I went down and seen him. I told him, I got a kid, he's good, and he knows his equipment, and he speaks enough English to get by. And I said, I want you to hire him when I leave. And so he said, okay. And so when I got ready to go, I said, well, Joe, you're leaving me, but you'll still be among friends. So I took him up there and turned him over to the old master sergeant, and they got along real good. And I used to take him with him. We'd go up there all the time. So he knew him, and he trusted him. And but the Koreans are basically honest. They really are. The Vietnamese is the worst. They are the worst. You don't have to steal anything. But I found the Koreans, I worked with a lot of different people, but the Koreans are the best people to work with. And so I didn't hear from Joe. Then I used to go to schools down here and talk to the students, and I was at Calvin Christian over in Escondido, They have a school over there out on Broadway. And I've been going there for 10 years on their Veterans Day. And they'll call me personally and say, you coming in, John? And, yep, I'll make it this year. And so I'm going this year. And anyway, I give up all the other schools. So just Calvin Christian I go to. But anyway, I went down 3 years ago, I went down there and I had my table here, and I was talking to him. And he was having a good time. I'd let him laugh, I tell him jokes and everything else, nice stuff, but it's Catholic, it's a Christian school, you gotta be good. But anyway, when those other kids would be looking over there and they'd, how come they're laughing? We're going to sleep. And then when the whistle would blow, then all the tables would change, and they'd all try to get to my table, But the teachers had to take them under control. But 3 years ago, I had a little girl straight across the table from me. It's a nice, beautiful little girl. She was, at that time, she was 13. And she asked some good questions, and I told her about a little girl in Korea. I was taking a convoy through Pohang there one time, and 7 o'clock in the morning in November, and it's cold in Korea in November, and right beside the road there was a little girl about that, I don't know how old she was, 3 or 4 years old again, just standing naked as a jaybird. Oh God, she was freezing to death, And so I stopped the convoy and I got a blanket that was warm, and well, there was one inside, on the motor. So they took that. I told her, hold the convoy, and I sent the second in command out. I said, go, tell the convoy to pull out and go on to the mission, and I'll catch up with you later. So they took the convoy. But I went that blanket, and I went over and picked her up. She never said a word, but you could see a little tear down her eye, but she never said a word, And I picked her up, put her on my shoulder, put that blanket around her, and boy, she just, she was happy. And so then when the convoy went by, I got 2 riflemen, and I said, get your rifles. It's still a war zone, you know. And she said, hey, you never know who's going to shoot at you. So, anyways, I told the 2 guys with the rifles, I said, get a box of rations, which is a week's supply for one person, you know. I said, get a box of rations, each one of you, and get a big bar of chocolate bar. They like that chocolate, and then it's good for them. So I got a big bar of chocolate and got it in. And then I went out and I looked around and I seen a bunch of people down in a beat up little settlement down there. But it was all torn down, you know, bombed out and everything. But there was a bunch of people down there, so I said, well, I'm going to go down there and see if anybody knows anything about this little girl. And she was just sleeping like a baby on my shoulder. She wasn't worried about it. And so we started down there. I put one rifle out in front and one behind me, and we went down there. I had no 45 on there, and we went down there. And first they wouldn't. I talked to them in Japanese and explained. The reason I'm talking in Japanese is I don't know Korean, but maybe you could tell me what I want to know. And I said, who will tell me? And finally, a woman from the back, she came up there, and she talked Japanese, and I told her, I just want to find somewhere I can take this little girl where she can be taken care of. She can't stand out there on the road like that. You freeze to death. And she says, I think she belongs at that village over there, I think. That's what she told me in Japanese, you know. So I went over there, and she went back. She went Monday, and she went back and got her husband came up there, and so he agreed to. They take the baby over there and see what they could do and help her. But I said, just get her some decent place. And then I said, so I had one guy. I said, give her a box of rations for him and her and the baby, and a bar of candy, of course. And so the bar of chocolate. And then I left the other with the rest of the people there, the other box, and they took off. So I went along. But I had told her that story, and she asked a lot of questions. And then she moved to another table, you know. So I didn't see her again. Then about 2 days afterwards, well, then you get a card from each one of the students and saying how they liked what you said. You were a good talker, a good teacher, and you enjoyed it. And I always got good marks. I made them laugh. And anyway, and then up in the middle of the card, that little girl made a circle, you know, like that, you know. And she wrote in there, she said, thank you for saving my country and saving my uncles and my daddy and mama and and some other people she talked about. And thank you very much for saving Korea. So I knew she had to be from Korea. She knew something about it, see. So so I came back the next year, and I said, hey, I showed her the car. I said, hey, where's Sophie? I'd like to see her. And she said, oh, Sophie's going back to Korea. She is not with us now.
What is this story?
What's
Kimpo Airport, big pink-eared rabbit with pink eyes. We made him happy. What is that story? Well, I want to hear these stories here. You said the warmest in Chosin was 28 below zero. The coldest was 42 below.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's where it was. Yeah, I can show you that place where it was. 42 below there. And I went down before I went into the Chosin. I went down to a shop in Tucson there, good shop, and of course it was about a black market, but I said, I want a reliable thermometer. We're going into Chosin. I want a good thermometer. And so they got me a good thermometer. And
From a Korean market, you got
yeah,
a.
it was a Japanese, what it was, but it was good. And so I had that with me all the time I was there.
So where were you living up there? What was it like?
Where?
Up in the
Korea?
Chosun Reservoir.
He was living on the ground. Sure, it's tricky. Oh yeah, this is it here. This corner here. This is coming down off the pass there. These are junk vehicles. We had to shove them out off the road because they were bought. They were no wouldn't run or they were been hit. And so I remember this corner. And when I went around there, I told them it was 20 below there. Or no, and then on top of the pass where this came down from, it was 42 below up there.
Wow. What was
But between 28 and 42, it don't make much difference. Really.
What would you say was your hardest time, most difficult memory from the Korean War? Was it the cold weather?
Oh, it pertains to the cold weather?
I don't know, or anything from the Korean War. What would you say was the most difficult?
It was a constant thing, because our shoes were no good. And when you'd walk, they'd sweat. You couldn't get no air, you know, you couldn't breathe. So your feet would sweat. And then when you'd stop, say they hit a roadblock or something, the Chinese cut us off or something, we couldn't go, you had to just sit. And if you move around too much, snipers get you, so you just got to stand still. And your feet's on that frozen ground, and that freezes. And your socks get icy. And then when you start walking, you're crunching on ice, and that's not good for your skin. Yeah, but when I tried to improvise, you know. When we left UDAMNE on 1 December, I had 3 big clothespins, or safety pins, and inside of my parka, and I hung 3 pair of socks on them inside of my parka. See, they were new socks when I started out, and then when I take a pair off and change them, I would take the wet ones and put them in here, and they'd dry out. So they were new yet, yeah. But then I was changing. It was coterie, I think it was. And when I told the gunner, "Hey, we're stopped. We're not going to move. I just found out we're going to be held up here for about an hour and a half." So I says, "Get out. I want to change socks." He said, "You want to get out there?" I said, "Yeah, I want you to get out in here." He said, "What if I die?" I said, "Well, I'll put you in the back, because I had bodies in there." And so he said, "Oh, well, you're so nice to me, John." So he got out anyway and stood up in front of the motor where the heat would blow on him. And when I changed my socks, and I was changing them, and some guy came by, and I didn't know who the hell he was. He was some civilians, all I knew. He wouldn't look like he was any necessarily in uniform. He says, "Well, you take care of your feet?" And I said, "Yeah, I change my socks every chance I get." And I showed him my arrangement here. This is a fresh one. This was new in UDAMNE. These 2 have been used on the road. And these, when I'm taking off, I'm going to go back here, and this one's going to go there. And he said, "Well, that's great. You're taking care of your feet." And he looked at my feet, and he said, "You got a little frostbite, but," he said, "you're not bad. Just keep working on them." I said, "I intend to. I want to walk." And I never rode. I walked all the way out there. Never rode at all. Because and I had, so the first, I had 3 trucks, and they were loaded to the gunnels with rations, and then we had a tarp over that, and then casualties that couldn't walk could ride on there. And the bodies we picked up, we put them in trailers. We had some good ones on that one. But anyway, the bodies are frozen in all kinds of positions, you know. And that's rough storage, I'll tell you. When we came into Coterie there, I remember when I got out, and one of my trucks had got cut off, and it was back about 4 vehicles in the convoy, you know. So I've been looking back at him, and I looked back there, and some colonel says, "What the hell is that guy trying to prove there?" You know. I says, "I'll go take care of it. I'm going down there." So I knew it was my truck, but here was a guy standing up in front of a trailer just like this, you know, full parka, his hood on and on everything, and all buttoned up, gloves, had gloves on, his arms out like this, you know, standing up in a trailer. And I knew what it was. He was frozen that way, and so they just put him up against the front there and tied him there, because it's kind of hard to stow, you know. So I went down there. We got to do something else. So I put him on his side, with one hand down in the corner, and the other one up in the air, and then I tied him up there. But
Wow.
and then another guy, some second lieutenant, come up to me and he says, "You're supposed to pick up bodies?" I said, "Yeah, if I find any." He said, "Well, there's a body in a little cave down there." He said, "I just seen it." And I said, "How do you know it's a Marine?" Yeah, it's a Marine close. And I said, all right. So I said, "We got about 20 minutes, we gotta move fast." And so I got some rope out of the supply, and I told the major, "I gotta have your Jeep." And so I went down, because he told me what the hole was like and everything, and the guy was like, and he was dead and froze solid. And anyway, he was prone with his arms out like this, you know. And that hole was about that big. I don't know how he even got in there in the first place. He was a big Marine. But so I took Pee Wee with me down. I had a little guy named Pee Wee. I said, "Come on, Pee Wee, I need you." I took him back. "Get in there." He said, "There's dead people that I don't care. They're not going to hurt you. Get in there." So he got in there. I said, "Now, I want you to turn him around so that his head is coming out this way, right out the front door here." And so he drug him around there. Because it was dirty, you know, the ground's all frozen. The side of the hole was froze solid, you know. So you couldn't dig it out. And I said, "Now put that rope around his waist and put a square knot on it." He said, "I don't know how to." I said, "Put 2 grannies on it then." I said, "Okay." So he tied it up, you know. And then I got a hold of the rope and I pulled it, drug him right up so his head was right coming out, because I didn't want to break his neck off, you know. That can't happen when they're frozen, but it's messy. And anyway, I said, "Okay, you can come out now." "Well, yeah, you drug him out. Can I pull him back?" And I said, "Well, pull him back." All right, so he pulled him back. And he came out. So then I pulled him back up there. And then I tied on the Jeep. See? I said, "Okay, back up. Just take it slow and easy." So he did. And of course, when he hit the shoulder there, it broke his arms off, you know. They came along, but they still broke and fell inside. And his legs came together, so that was all right. But we got him out of there, because he'd been missing from the war. He'd still been missing if we had got him out of there. And he still had his 2 dog tags on, so he wasn't registered. So I cut 1 tag off, and that's what you're supposed to do. And so we got him. I took him, put him up on the Jeep, and this was old Major Jeep. He had it all cleaned up good, you know. And of course, trying to get around in that hole in there, his park of it was pretty lousy. And I took it back, a Jeep up there, take it up there and give it back to Major there, will you? But I said, we're gonna put the body in the back, first trailer there. So we got the body on the trailer, and that Major, he's, my God, what you doing to my Jeep? I said, well, he was on a humane mission. And I told him, he said, oh, all right. So he got in and took off. But
Wow.
there's humor in everything, if you just look for it.
Wow.
I had an old gunny told me, that was when in 1941, I had just got out of boot camp. And this guy was he was a China Marine, they called him, you know, the old salts, you know. And he told me, he said, kid, he said, God damn, always have some humor in your life. If you don't have humor in your life, you'll get funny in the head, you'll have bad dreams, and you'll go crazy. He said, so just get some humor.
Yeah.
He said, there's humor in dying, as long as ain't someone's dying. So he made a little joke there. You know.
When did you leave Korea?
Huh?
When did you leave Korea?
I left here April the 8th of 51.
April of 51.
Yeah, I came here in August of 50.
I see. So have you thought about Korea often once you came back to the U.S.? Is it something that you thought about often?
What's that?
Your experience in the Korean War, is that something that stayed with you for a long time?
Oh, yeah.
Even after?
I'll tell you, I got a hell of a memory, but I built that memory. I told my mother, I said, I had never graduated from grade school. And I told my mother, I said, when I get out of the Marine Corps, I'm going to write a book. And she just, she said, poor boy. She knew I had never had a grade school education, never went to high school. And so, but the Marine Corps, they'd always say, you go in the Marine Corps, they'd say, how far did you go to school? And, well, it was a quarter mile from our house, the ranch house, to the schoolhouse that Grandpa built, see? So I said, that's a quarter mile. And they'd say, how far did you go to school? And I said, quarter mile. And that's all I ever answered all the time in the Marine Corps. Because I didn't want to say, oh, I didn't go this, I didn't go that.
Yeah.
But I did improve my education in the Marine Corps on my own. And I did write the book.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's called Through It All, Stories from the Top. I'm the top sergeant. First sergeant is always the top sergeant. It's
So
just a title. It doesn't mean necessarily he's the top guy. It just means that he's the administrative head.
Yeah. So in Korea, what was your final rank from the Korean War?
Master sergeant.
Master Sergeant.
Yeah. I made master sergeant the day I landed back here in the States.
I see. So how do you feel when people say Korean War is the forgotten war?
Well, it kind of gets discolored when I think about the Vietnam War. Them people said the reason they rebelled, they never got a parade when they came home. That was their big complaint. They never got a parade. Who the hell cares about a parade? I've been in a lot of wars, a lot of battles. I never had a parade either, but I didn't expect it either. But no, I had no complaints with anything. I think everything I did was, I did it for the best I could, and that's all you can do.
Anything else you want to say to the younger generations about the Korean War so it does not become a forgotten war?
Well, I would say one thing is when I landed in Busan and in that area, and we fought on through, you know, and it was the most desolate and dirty place I'd ever been in my life. And I went back there 2 years ago. I tell you, you could eat off the floor of ground in Seoul. That's the most beautiful country in the world there. It is really nice, and it's clean, and the people are nice, they're polite, and I got nothing against it at all.
And you are a part of what made Korea how it is now. Are you proud of that?
Yeah, I'm proud to say I know Koreans and they, in fact, they're overeducated. They spend too much time on it. We don't spend enough time on education. But the Koreans could teach us something. But their basic thing that is their people. They're honest, they're hardworking, they're reliable, and that's success right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like the Koreans, really do.
Wow. Any other final thoughts that you want to say to the camera? Anything else about your war experience? Anything for the younger generations?
Oh, I don't know. The Korean War was a hard war. It was Korea's got some, especially North Korea, they got some rugged mountains up there. They're like Afghanistan, you know, they're just deep valleys and cliffs and rocks all the way up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about the only thing I can think of. Is
Okay.
you take war as you go and do your best and keep your mouth shut and